everyone, it's Tim Holtz, and I want to share with you the stamp platform from Tonic. Now, this is a very cool, innovative tool designed for precision stamping using both clear and rubber stamps, and it is so easy to use. So in the box, you get the stamp platform and 2 magnets ready to go. Everything you need to get started stamping. So here is the platform itself. Now, the platform has this foam base. It's got these little rubber feet, and that's designed so when you place it onto the surface, it doesn't slip and slide around. The platform is 2 pieces. It has a top clear acrylic lid, and you can see that when it is kind of partially open, it is secure to the base. To remove it, you simply stand it straight up in the track, place one hand on the base, and lift this out. It doesn't lock in, it doesn't snap in, it doesn't do anything like that, but it is very easy to stand it straight up, put it into the channel, and again, once it's closed, it's going to stay secure to the base. Now, I mentioned this being acrylic. It is a firm acrylic that actually has this molded grid in there. And I wanted it molded because I wanted to be able to use paints and inks and all different mediums and not worry about anything getting stuck into etched lines. That's why I wanted this to be molded. Now, you'll notice on the base that it has words here. One says clear, and if I flip this over, the other says rubber. And this is designed, again, for both clear and rubber stamps, and I'll share with you just how we can use it. Now, the base itself is magnetic. It's got these magnets that slide all across this magnetic surface. It is 8.5 by 8.5 because it is sized not only for small cardstock, large cardstock, even up to 12 by 12 if you're going to stamp on a scrapbook page. It has these raised guides on the side that you can align your paper in the corner, or quite honestly, you can work anywhere that you want on the platform. So let's get started, all right? First, I'm going to start with just clear stamps. So I'm going to make sure that it says clear. I'm going to stand this straight up, place it into that channel, and close it. Now we're ready to go. Now, depending on what sort of paper you want to stamp on, maybe you want to work on watercolor cardstock or smooth paper or mixed media, you can really give different papers a try. I'm just going to start with just a piece of smooth cardstock just to share with you. And you can use the platform going straight up. This is how I prefer to use it. Or I've seen people use it on its side, so you can open and close it like a book. Whatever works for you, all right? So I'm just going to start by opening this up, and I'll place that down. And I like to have this kind of sitting on a flat surface, but I'm not really worrying too much because, again, it's going to be really stable. And I'll pull this into camera view when I stamp. It's just how I work with it. I know I can use it left to right. I just prefer using it this way. I'm just going to take my cardstock, and again, you can align it into the corner, or you can place this anywhere that you want. Take these magnets. Now, the magnets you want to keep distance because if you get them too close, they'll click together. They could pinch you, so you want to be careful, or they could shatter. So I always just keep them kind of in opposite corners when I'm working with it. And because we're working with clear, I'm just going to start just taking any type of clear stamp. So let me just peel this off. This is a silicone stamp, so you can use silicone stamps, you can use clear polymer, but you can see these are kind of those clingy ones that we're working with. I'm just going to take my image and just decide where I want to place this, right? Here, I'm going to place it right here. That's my image down on my paper. I'm just going to take this, close this, and that picks that stamp right up. I'll bring this down just so you can see it. And I'm going to work with ink. You can work with any type of ink. You can work with distress ink. You can work with archival. You want to work with any type of permanent or solvent ink. That's fine. Here's what I love is that I can give it really good pressure. And you can hear that I'm really inking that up, and I don't have to worry about this top plate bowing or bending. And I have ink on there. I kind of intentionally wanted to get a little bit of that ink on there so I can talk about cleanup, all right? So if you get ink anywhere on there, don't worry about cleaning it up right now because it is not going to transfer to the paper. You're simply going to flip this over, and you need to give it pressure. We're stamping where the stamp is, right? You're not gonna press anywhere on the outside. Your stamp is here. That's where I need to press. I wanna make firm pressure. Lift it up, and look at that. One shot, there is my image. Simple as that. All right, remove the magnets, and again, see how I just slide them off into opposite corners. I don't want to push them together. Take that off, take a look at the detail. Really, really simple on that. Then we will clean it. So as far as cleaning goes, right? For my stamps, I just wipe them off. That's all I do to my stamps. If you want to use a stamp cleaner, you can. Here's a thing to note about cleaning any ink off of the platform, whether it's on the top. I'll even take some permanent ink and put it onto the base, whether it's archival. I'll even take some StazOn. You wouldn't normally do this, but I want to share with you how you can clean it. So when you clean the platform, you can really use a lot of different cleaners, anything that you would normally use to clean those inks off of a stamp. So if you're using these inks on your stamp, whatever cleaner you use to take it off your stamp, that's what you would use to take it off of the platform. Some things I like, you can use a solvent cleaner if you want to use that for stamps, or a really affordable way is just using hand sanitizer because it has a solvent. It's really easy to work with. Do not use acetone or nail polish remover on that. That's the only thing that you don't want to use to clean. And we wouldn't use that anyway on our stamps. So I'm just going to use a little hand sanitizer on this part just to show you. Just to kind of take this off. And that's going to remove the archival ink because archival is oil-based. Stays on a little bit more stubborn, so I'll just go in with a solvent cleaner. Place that on there. You can let it sit and clean that off. Really, really simple. Comes off clean. Now, anytime that I use a lot of solvents, if I do, what I'll just go in is just kind of take a baby wipe or a damp paper towel and I'll wipe this down when I'm all finished with it. Not necessary, but I just like to do that because I don't want to leave any solvent cleaners on there, but it's not going to hurt your platform, so don't worry about that. All right, so that's how easy it was to stamp using a clear stamp. Now, if we're going to go to a rubber stamp, we're going to stand this straight up, lift it out of the channel, flip it over to where it says rubber. You can see that. Stand it back up into the channel, and we're ready to go, just like that. So let's take just a piece of cardstock. I'll lift this up. Using the corner, I think actually I'll just place it here. You don't always have to use the corner guides. The magnets are very, very strong. If you're looking for additional magnets, you can buy additional pack of magnets. They're sold in a 2-pack. So if you're one of those people where you just want more magnets, you want to feel a little bit more secure on larger areas, they are sold in a 2-pack for the platform. All right, so now that we're working with rubber stamp, let's go in and we'll pick something with a little bit more detail. We'll take kind of this rose here and I'll place that down. So sometimes I'll do that again if I'm maybe want to stamp off the edge. That's why I'm not always worrying about committing to that corner, but I know that you can position and move your card around. Whatever works for you, that's what I tell people. You're just going to close it, press that to transfer the stamp. I'll pull that down just so you can see. Again, I'm just going to go in with my ink. I love that I can just tap, 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 tap. Really make sure that I get ink on that stamp. Now, this time I'm just going to kind of just loosely stamp this, so I have to stamp it a second time, right? If I just press and I didn't apply what normal pressure you would to stamp, it still gave me a great image, but again, you can just go back in without even inking because there's still ink on that stamp, and we can stamp it again to get that nice impression. Now, another cool thing that you can do is if you ever want to create depth in an image, just take ink and just ink up a different area of the stamp. Here, I'm just going to go in and just do the flowers. I'm not going to do the leaves. And I'm just going to add a second layer of that ink. And I'm going to go back in and stamp it again. Again, we're just adding pressure to that. Opposite corners, and look at that. So not only do I have that great detail, but you can see that the center is much darker than the leaves that go out. So that's just another great trick when you're working with a stamping tool like this. Pretty easy to use. All right, so let me just go in, wipe that off because that's all I do to clean my stamps, put it back on its sheet. And let's talk about some other things. Talk about a 12 by 12, right? So the nice thing, again, if you wanted to stamp on a larger sheet of paper, this side is open, so that will allow me to take even a 12 by 12 piece of paper, and I can place this down on my platform. And what's great about working on something like this is the center of a 12 by 12 is really 6 by 6. So that's going to be about here, and that's going to give me a really nice area because I have all the way up to this 8.5 by 8.5 space. So let's do some other images. I'm sure you would use a journal card or something like that, but here I'm just going to go in and just use a couple of images. And what I like about this, let's do imagination. We'll put that. We'll do proprietor of ideas. How about that? All right, so we're just going to use that to start. And what I can do is decide where I want to place this onto my page. Do I want it off to the side? As long as you're somewhere on your platform, you're going to be just fine. So let's place that. Get my image right there. Okay, I'm happy with that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to close this. Okay, and that picks up those images. Now, one thing to note, I'm just going to spin this around just to share with you one of the cool features of this grid. If you think, well, why is that grid there? All right, let's see if I can get the camera to pick this up. So you see those grid lines in there. Even though I've transferred my image and I placed it down on the paper side, I can look at this grid line and see that my stamp is kind of going off at an angle. Right? Can you see that like that? This bottom one just kind of goes off on a slight angle. So I'm looking at the grid and I'm just going to go in and adjust my image to make sure that my stamp is going to run parallel to the grid. So any adjustments that I need to make, I can use that grid for kind of lining things up. So I can use these parallel lines here, or I can just go straight across. Once my images are set the way I want it, cool, I can spin this back around, and I'm sure this drives people crazy because I'm spinning it, but you know what? I just need to do this because this is how I work. So pull this down so you can see that I'm inking this guy, and I'm going to go in and ink this up, ink up my stamp. Really, again, give it some good pressure. Tap, tap, tap. That's the best way to ink up a stamp several times. Now, if you have ink on these guide rails, see how I have ink on this guide? You definitely want to take the ink off of that. So you can just go in with a towel. You don't want ink on those guide rails if you could avoid it. Just because a little too much pressure, that could move that stamp just a little bit. Let me wipe that. I'll go back in. All right, ready to go. So bring this into camera view, and I'm just gonna flip this and stamp it. Give it my normal pressure. Again, pressing that down, lift that up. Oh, take a look at that. So there's that little S. So you can see where I didn't have that ink before, because I knew I touched it. Just gonna go in, and it allows me to go in and fix that, no problem. But take a look at that. Right offset on my scrapbook page. I could put a photo, do whatever I want. So that's how easy it is to work on a 12 by 12. And also when you're working with different images, it allows you to really create your composition, not only on your paper, but you can make sure everything is straight just by using the grid from the top. So I'm just gonna wipe the ink off of that. Let me remove these stamps. All right, take this off. Cool, right? 12 by 12, not bad at all. All right, so next up, we're just going to go in and just do one other quick thing when we're working with it, and that is using it to watercolor. Now, when I'm using this to watercolor, I'm just gonna go in and just kind of place this down and just kind of use the side of it. I find that when I'm watercoloring, I do think it's easier to work with it like a book. Again, it's all about preference and what you want. So I'm just gonna take some stamps. These are just gonna be some butterfly stamps. I'll just do one just to share with you. And I'm gonna use some watercolor cardstock for this. So let me just open this up and I'll place that in there. Again, use the magnets just to secure it. Decide where I wanna put my stamp. I think I'll have it offset like that. Does that work? All right, so we're gonna close that, and that's gonna transfer my stamp. Cool, keeps it in camera. And then I'm just going to go in and just use a series of markers. These are just distress markers. Now, normally when you're watercoloring a stamp, you take the brush side of a marker and you add all of your color at one time to an image. And then we either huff some hot air on it or spray it with water and hope for the best. Sometimes it works, sometimes it's a little muddy. So here, I'm just gonna spray with a little bit of water, flip it over, stamp my first layer of color. Love that. Take my towel, just wipe off that color. Now remember, with watercolor, it requires water and color, so don't be afraid that your image is really wet like that. That's what we're going for. So I'm just gonna take my next color, add that, give it a blast. You can even give it a spray and a half, stamp that, and look how we start to create that layer effect. And this allows me to visually see what I'm creating. I don't have to overcommit. I can see here that that has a lot of wet pink, so I'm gonna go in with some blue. That's gonna blend really nice. Give it just a shot of water, stamp that. Look at that. Look how cool that is, knowing that you can blend that out. And that is the beauty, of course, of watercolor, is that if you keep your layers wet, it really allows all of the colors that you put in there to really blend beautifully together. So I'm gonna add a little bit of some deeper red inside here. See, this is what I like. You really kind of feel like that whole watercolor artist, right? Because you're adding color little by little. Look how I just kind of intensified the edge of those wings. I'm gonna go in for the body of this butterfly. We'll use a little bit of green. And let's see, I think down here, I really like that purple. Probably wanna go in just a little bit more, not too much. So I'm just putting a little bit just on that edge where I wanna do that. And I wanna bring in some more of that teal or blue color. So I'm gonna take some peacock feathers, and I think I'll even bring some up into that yellow and see what we get. All right, so we add that, give it a spray. Maybe I'll give it 2, just to really wet that, and let's stamp that down. Oh, look at that. cool. It just kind of gave that punch of color and everything. I'll move that off. I'll take my heat tool. I'm just gonna go in and dry this. We don't want to emboss or use a heat tool on the base of the platform, so just hold that up just to dry. Take a look at that. How cool. Just creating that watercolor effect just by having the control of going in with your platform and stamping and stamping and stamping. I love that. So again, when you're working with it, whether you're working with clear or rubber stamps, that is the ease of working with the Tonic stamp platform. You've got that rubber side, stand this up, flip it over. You have the clear side. Remember, when you are stamping, firm pressure like normal. That's what this is designed to do. It's not going to bow or bend, so you can really give it your pressure right over the image where that is. And you're ready to go. When you're cleaning it, again, you can use your solvent cleaners, you can use hand sanitizer, alcohol wipes. Just remember that if you put some solvents on, it's a good idea just to go in with a damp cloth when you're all done, wipe it down before you put it away. Now, speaking of putting it away, storage. There is a neoprene storage case available. That's a really cool way to stamp, to store your stamp platform. It's got this metal zipper on the top, and you just take that, take the whole platform, slides in there, really nice, zip it up, and there you go. So there is the stamp platform from Tonic.